In this video, we're going to talk about the fourth structure in the project, the one that's called mass timber. Now, a couple of things you want to keep in mind with respect to this particular structure. So chapter 4 in the textbook talks about heavy timber and mass timber. Heavy timber is really something we associate with solid wood beams and columns. Gradually, they've begun to integrate glulam in this, but mass timber is sort of a newer term, and it really applies to some of the more fabricated components, including glulams, but also things like cross-laminated timber floors and wall panels, and that sort of thing. And it's also associated with more with taller buildings that exceed what you can do under the normal type 4 HT designation. So even though our structure is only 2 stories high and we haven't really gotten into kind of this high-rise type structures, we are going to apply some of the components that would be associated with mass timber. So I'm here in the 3D view. And again, we're going to be working on this one right here. So we'll bring in some glulam columns, some glulam beams and girders, and we'll construct a floor made out of the cross-laminated timbers. So first thing we want to do, as we've done in the past 2, is bring in the columns first. So I'll proceed with that. So the glulam columns, and you'll read about this in the chapter, maybe you already have, but it's made up of small pieces that they're glued together to form these larger members. So under insert, I'm going to go to load Autodesk family, and I'm going to search for glulams. They have 2 types here, southern pine and the western species. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We'll, for the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to use the western species. So it's just a different type of soft wood that goes into the manufacture of these. And they have slightly different strength properties because they're coming from different tree species. So I'm going to click on the column here, and I'm going to load that into the project. Right now, I'm going to scroll down and look for a square column. Remember, since square shapes are more efficient when it comes to column members, we want to find one that's relatively square. And our structure here has this 25 by 25 foot grid, so it makes sense that we would go ahead and select a square column. And the closest we have to this would be this 10.75 by 10.5. Now, keep in mind, these glulams are specific sizes. They're manufactured to these dimensions, as opposed to solid timbers that are nominally sized and generally in the process of preparing them for sale and for bringing into construction sites. They are planed down slightly smaller than those nominal sizes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I'm going to go to level 1 so I can bring in those columns. So I'm going to go to the structure tab and click on column, and there is my new glulam column. And I'm going to start making some setting changes to bring it in. The first click, I'm going to make that 0 feet, 0 inches. The second click will be level 3 minus 1 foot to 1.5. And you might have to enter this number in first and this one in second. Let's go ahead and place one of these. So, you can make these at an angle, and that's why you're given these options, right? So I've placed one there. and I'm going to go to my 3D. There it is, a little bit overlapped with that, that set of foundations beyond, but you can kind of get a sense of what we're looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to level 1, make a copy of each of these and place them at each of the grid lines. See if it's snapping to the intersection. Yes. Let's try that again. Copy. I won't snap to intersections. I'll just put those distances. Oh. Make sure I got the right offset. So there's going to be a roof layer that happens there, and that's why we drop those down a little bit. Okay, that's the first part of this. That is the glulam columns. Next, what we'll be doing is adding some girders. So I'm going to go to Insert, Root Autodesk Family, and I'm still in the glulam search bar right here, and I'm going to use the same species in beam form. So here we go, load. And for the girders, I'm going to look for one that is 6.75 by 21. There it is, and I'm going to click on OK. All right, then I'll go to level 2, not the ceiling plan, and minimize this so I don't create a mistake. Level 2, and I will begin to bring in the beam. It will come in as a beam, even though we're calling it a girder, because it's going to be taking the load of some beams that frame into it. Okay, so there's my glulam, and I'm going to zoom in a little closer here. I'll run these girders between the columns. Looks like I'm going to down. I want them to go all the way to the face of the column. I'll drag these. Right, and these will run in the north-south direction. So I'm going to copy girder 25 feet. Section and make sure they're at the right level. So I got to figure out why they didn't do that. So let's go to our 3. They are. So what we'll do is hold down Control, grab all of these. Minus 8.5. Start and end. Right, let's double check on our section. Now they're dropped where they should be. Right, the next thing is going to be to bring in the beams. So the beams are going to stretch from girder to girder. So I'll go back to this family, bring in another horizontal member. And this one is going to be smaller. It's going to be a 5 and an 1/8 by a 15" glulam. You say OK. And to level 2. and I will do architecture, structure, beam, and I'm going to look at a new one that I brought in here. Here it is, 5.125 by 15, and I'll put the first one here, and then I will fix it so it's the right height. Let's get it stretched so that it spans from face of column to face of column on it, and it changes the same level minus. One won't show up in my section because the section's further north, so let's take a better from the south view. Make sure it's at that lower height as it is. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and make copies of that one as well. So I have one here, and I'm going to start making copies of it. But before I do that, let's make one copy, and then we're going to have to modify that one a little bit. Spacing for these is going to be 8 feet 4 inches, which is a little different than what we've used for our other spacings. But the reason for this is the CTL laminate flooring that we're going to cross laminate timber flooring that we're going to be bringing in. So you can see I had to stretch it because the girders are a slightly different dimension than the columns. Okay, so I'll go ahead and continue with these two copies, but I need to be careful which ones I copy where. Or this one will be copied 25 feet up because that one needs to be. Okay, so I'll copy this one up 12 or 16 feet 8 inches. Or copy all of those so that there's one between column lines 12 and 13. Save my project here. And got them copied. And I'll double check with my 3D view, make sure it looks okay. Yes, it does. So now what I'm going to do is go to level 2, and I'm going to copy them up to the roof level. So you can go around and pick each one. Control C and then paste to selected levels. I'll put it on level 3 and say okay. And then let's take a look at the 3D view. You can see they're kind of floating too high. I'm going to move them all so that they are lower, and you can see I've only got the beams here. Remember the height that we used for that was minus 1 foot 1.5. This is relative to the third level. So now they're in the proper location, and I'll do the same thing with the girders. Up there, and now I'm going to change those to minus 1, 5. like they should. The next part of this is going to be to add a floor. So we have this dimension here that we're working with, and we're going to be using a series of or a flooring system that's called a cross-laminated timber floor, and we'll add a layer of concrete topping above it. So I'm going to go to level 2, and I'm going to go to structure floor structural, and I'm going to select here the generic floor. It's 12 inches, and I'm going to edit the type and make it duplicate. This duplicate is going to be a 5-layer CL2 and top. Now I'll go to edit the assembly, and I'll start adding a bunch of layers here. We're going to have the top. So let's just do the top layer first. This is going to be a concrete layer. That's in place. This one will be 1.5 inches thick. The next one is going to be wood. So we'll say it's a softwood lumber. That one will be 0 feet, 1.275. Basically, I want to make 4 more that are exactly the same as that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, the tedious here, but softwood lumber, just go down the list here, softwood lumber. And I'll change these to 1.5 inches. Right, top of it will be at level 2, 0, 0 inches. I'm going to change anything like that. But I do want to begin to make a floor profile. I could just make a square and modify it. I think it's actually going to be faster. I'll come back and fix that. It's going to go all the way around. I'll follow the column. Column will come through the floor there. Just kind of fix this. Let's move this up. Snap. And that's what was 5.25. Being stubborn. Let's try to move on to this. Last thing is to set Now let's take a look. Now the span, you know, CTLs are a little bit different. We have girders running this way, we have the beams running this way. So technically the span direction would be the opposite way. Let's go ahead and fix that just so we're consistent with how we've been doing this. Edit boundary, span direction, and then click that side. Now that should be running a different way. Okay. Let's take a look at the section. So what you can see is all of these layers. Now some of the layers are going to be running in this direction and others in the opposite direction, but we'll have to handle that at the detail level. Now for this mass timber structure, we're going to go ahead and start to block in something for the roof. We'll come back later and make a few changes to it, but I'm going to go to level 3 now. And I'll go again to the structure, floor structural, and I'm going to click on the same one, but edit the type and create a duplicate. The duplicate is going to be a 3-layer CTL, and it's going to have, instead of a topping slab, it's going to have rigid insulation. I'm going to edit this assembly. I'm going to remove 2 of these layers. 3-layer CLC. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to add my rigid insulation. Okay. Thickness is going to be different. I'm going to make it very thick. It will have this insulation that is tapered towards some drains that we're already adding. Click on OK and OK. And for this one, I'm going to go and create just a simple rectangle from the outer corners of the column. Let's go to our section looking north. All right, we look a little funny, but we will repair that shortly. Oh, actually, it looks like I made one little error to that. Instead of being 13.5 for this insulation, we're going to fix that. So let's go to click on it, edit the type, and see if it change here. Instead of 1 foot 1.5, I want the total of this to be 1 foot 1.5. The actual insulation will be 9.375. 5K. It's now sitting on top of those beams like it should be. And then I'll go to 3D view. This is what we should see at this point.